Story 1. I'm a woman. Only men say this to me. My response is to tell them, okay, no need to get so emotional about it. It never fails to enrage them. Story 2. I'd say okay and try to avoid that person as much as I can. Story 3. Well, you cannot take any criticism, it seems. Why can you be sensitive and I cannot? Story 4. What's the punchline? I don't get it. Say with a flat expression and a straight face, then pause. If they do not explain, say, no, seriously, explain the joke. Story 5, a couple of ways. 1. Pick your battles. Brush it off, but make a mental note that they are one of those kinds of people and keep them out of your inner circle. 2. Say something like this, no, you are not. You are being hurtful, and then falling back on I am just joking. Do not be so sensitive when you are called out instead of apologizing like a decent person. For it to be a joke, it must have a point or a punchline or be so out of character and obviously the opposite of what is expected that it registers as sarcasm or deadpan humor. There are tonal cues when people do that. What you said was entirely in character for you, had no punchline, and you were not saying it in a sarcastic tone. You were not joking. You were being hurtful, and it is time for you to leave. Story 6. I look at them with a faint smile and do not say a word. They become uncomfortable very quickly. Story 7. If it were a joke, it would be a shitty one because it just sounds like you're being a dick rather than funny. Story 8. Play dumb, ask them to explain the joke, and watch them put their foot in their mouth. There is never a proper joke structure or anything funny, just a rude remark. This works well with racist or sexist jokes. Story 9. Fuck off. I am tired of this be the bigger person bullshit. Story 10. Oh, it's a joke. I see. I thought you were being a racist, sexist, and homophobic asshole. Haha. Story 11. What are you trying to say? I would respect you more if you had the courage not to hide insults behind sarcasm. Story 12. Him. It's just a joke. Me. I can see why you didn't go into stand-up. Story 13. I would say something along the lines of that is so cute that you have to try so hard to be funny. Story 14. Usually when someone says something they think is funny but that is clearly an ism, I say it is an odd thing to say. That usually puts them on the defensive. If someone says they were only joking, I say I am not sensitive but confused and ask them to explain the joke to me. Story 15. You do not get to decide how your words made me feel. Story 16. Ah, so it was a joke? Go on then. Let's hear the punchline. I still do not get how that is funny. Can you explain it to me? Sure. The joke sets up an expectation and then subverts it with an unexpected twist. It often uses wordplay, irony, or exaggeration. The punchline delivers a surprising or absurd conclusion that contrasts with what you expected. And that contrast is what makes it funny. Story 17. Oh, that was a joke? How? What did you mean? Or, if I want to be not nice, I'm not being sensitive. You're being a dick. Story 18. Obviously, with a face like that, I knew the clowns had arrived. Story 19. Ah, that's interesting. I thought for something to qualify as a joke, it needed to be funny to everyone. Story 20. Maybe try making jokes that are actually funny, or ask them to explain the joke and say what was supposed to be funny. Story 21. It's not about my sensitivity. It's about your insensitivity. Story 22. If it's at someone's expense, they are always being jerks. No exceptions. Story 23. Ask them to explain the joke because you do not understand why it is funny. Story 24. I dated someone who used me as a verbal punching bag. I asked what her problem was. She said she was just joking. I told her the things she said were not a joke to anyone. She was being toxic. I asked why we were dating if she hated me that much. I left her because she seemed so unhappy in the relationship. Even though I worked multiple jobs and she was the light of my life. I've moved on. It's been over a decade. Story 25. You can laugh about it, but you are still being offensive. I want you to stop right now. Story 26. There is no way to say this without sounding like an arrogant internet dork. I am confrontational. What that means depends on the context, but that is generally it. I will throw a joke back at someone. Maybe I will keep pushing the conversation forward, not subtly. I might ignore them but still let them know I am ignoring them. I do whatever feels right in the moment, including simply being mean. While I am confrontational, I like to think I am pretty chill. Many things do not bother me. I let a lot of things slide because I do not have the emotional response to them. Story 27. I cannot laugh because I am too exhausted by all the people who say it and mean it. What a bunch of fuckwits. Am I right? Story 28. I will remove them from my life permanently, as soon as possible. It does not matter whether I get a zinger in as a retort. You do not win with bullies or man-children. Story 29. A joke is funny for everyone. For instance, you are one. Story 30. Look at the person with them and ask, did you lose a bet? Story 31. A simple lowercase or okay, a tired sigh optional, and then moving on has stopped all the edgy jokes directed at me in the friend group and even somehow almost all the jokes directed at the group in general. If they intended to annoy me, my comment congratulations on annoying me. Now I like you less. Is that what you want? Seemed to sway them. The only later incident years ago was resolved when I explained that the only thing that will always truly make me angry is being annoyed on purpose, and I gave him a solid slap in the back of the head. When watching a comedian with someone who said, it's just a joke, don't be offended, it's comedy, I was surprised how effective it was to say, I know, he can be so much funnier than this. I don't think they're just looking for any reaction. They're looking for an easy excuse to blame you for not reacting the way they want. Story 32. What is the joke? Or I am sorry, I do not get it. Can you explain why that is funny? Story 33. Out of work. The fuck you are. You aren't Roseanne in the 1990s. It was in no way a goddamn joke. The joke was that your daddy didn't pull out and now we have you, the punchline. In work. Here we have the policy on that topic. Read up on it. Send me an email describing how it does not violate this policy, or I will send one to Human Resources describing how it does. Here is the policy on professionalism for you to brush up on. Story 34. Jokes need to be funny to everyone concerned. Otherwise, it is just thinly veiled nastiness. Story 35. I'm sorry, could you say that again? Wow, what an awfully strange thing to say out loud. Story 36. I'm already immune to such things, so nobody ever actually says that to me. It is a Generation X superpower. However, there is no shortage of people who try to get under my skin. How I respond depends on the situation, but I usually try to turn it back on them using their own words. Troll the troll, so to speak. Story 37. It still hurts. I drift away from them over time because every interaction has the shadow of that moment hanging over it, and I will never trust them again. Story 38. Now walk away. Then stay married to an abusive person for 8 years. Stay sensitive, friends. Story 39. I say if it were a joke, we would all find it funny. I do not, so make your jokes about someone else. Story 40. Be funnier or you will be opening for Amy Schumer any day now. Keep it up. Story 41. As my friend, why do you find something funny that could hurt my feelings? I am open to feedback when it is given effectively. Story 42. Something along the lines of fuck you. I'm kind of a smartass myself, but you are responsible for the perception of your own remarks. Know your audience or fuck you. Fair is fair. Story 43. It depends. Usually the glacial stare I inherited from my dad is effective, but if a Schrödinger-like racist, sexist, or similar person really needs it, I roast them. If they are too pathetic to roast in specific detail, saying, oh, bless your heart is sufficient. This works better with passive-aggressive comments. For example, ask, are you okay? Is something going on in your home life? I am here if you need to talk. Story 44. None of these responses are good. Someone please come up with a good comeback. Story 45. I do not get it. Can you explain why that is funny? Just ask questions like you are the most innocent lamb. Anyone using that excuse cannot defend the idea that it was a joke without making it even more obvious they are awful. Story 46. Call them out for acting as a Schrödinger's douchebag. They say hurtful things with deliberate intent, but when confronted they withdraw and claim they were only joking. See also deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Story 47. Saying it was only a joke means I was being rude and I want to pass. If you have to say I was only joking, you understand that you said something hurtful or offensive. Story 48. Ah, you are unsafe to be around. Thanks for the heads up. They walk away. Story 49. I know someone who makes hurtful remarks that are borderline violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act and are racist, then calls them playful jabs. This post was very helpful. Thank you. Story 50. Fuck you. 10 to 15 seconds of silence while maintaining firm eye contact. Laugh, then say, I'm just joking, don't be so sensitive. Story 51. That is a lie. Snide attacks are intended to hurt people. Ultimately, you reveal yourself as small and petty, and I would prefer to have no interaction. Then I walk off. Story 52. Call them a cunt. Then say you were just joking. Don't be sensitive. Story 53. Oh, like the time your mom tried to abort you, but it was too late? Just kidding. Story 54. Make them explain the joke. Do not let it go. Keep saying, no, explain. Put them on the spot. Story 55. Leave comedy to the professionals. Your sense of humor is lower than the belly of a worm. Story 56. I tell them they sound like they're obsessed with me, blow them a kiss, and usually that stops the issue. Laughing out loud. Story 57. I will be less sensitive when you develop a sense of humor. Story 58. Like Paddington Bear, I just give them a good hard stare. Story 59. Everyone makes an occasional regrettable joke. I have been guilty of it. Sometimes we do not think before we speak. I do not associate with people who repeatedly do this. Neither should you. Story 60. I added them to my list of valve stems to remove. The list remains mostly empty, but my drawer of valve stems is getting full. Story 61. Well, nobody laughed, so maybe comedy isn't your thing. Story 62. The best advice I received for dealing with a snide remark is to pause, give no reaction, look directly at the person and wait. Then say, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? Lack of reaction usually settles them, as does putting the spotlight on them by asking them to repeat the underhanded remark. Most people retract, and they are less likely to accuse you of being sensitive if you respond blandly. Story 63. What's the joke? Who was supposed to laugh here? Was that supposed to make the target feel better, or was it really just a put-down? A good joke makes everyone laugh together. I have kids, and I am teaching them that insults and pranks are not jokes. Story 64. I usually do not respond with a snide remark. I double down and say that the topic matters to me, that it affects me personally, and that I do not appreciate being spoken to that way. More often than not, being serious is enough to make them stop. If it does not, it shows the audience what kind of person they are and only hurts them. Story 65. I usually do not say anything and let their comment hang in the air. People can reflect, and those who would actually take in any response will do so. The rest do not matter. Either way, I am not wasting my energy. Story 66. I'm too funny to get to that point. If you make a snide remark, I won't back down. If you're an ass, own it. Story 67. They are looking for a reaction. Do not give it to them. I look them in the eye with a serious face, stare in silence, and say nothing. In my experience, everyone else stays quiet as well, and it becomes very uncomfortable for the jokester and anyone who laughed. Story 68. Ah, bless your heart. Then turn your back and sashay away. Story 69. I was taught that when someone makes a crude or rude joke or comment, you should adopt a deadpan expression and ask them to explain it. They should feel uncomfortable explaining why their remark is funny. Story 70. You are not very good at joking. Maybe you should not do that. Story 71. Do not chicken out. Say what you mean and stand by it. Are you afraid of the consequences? Let us all know exactly who you are, please. Story 72. That is literally passive-aggressive. Just tell me what you really want. Story 73. I do not understand your joke. Please explain it and why it is funny. Story 74. Last time I checked, if not everyone is laughing and someone is actually hurt, it is not a joke. It is being an asshole. Story 75. Please explain this joke to me. Never fails to make the joker squirm. Story 76. It depends. Does this person do it all the time? Are they using it to be a jerk and get away with it? Consider the source. Story 77. I would either say that next time when I am unintentionally an asshole you can shut the fuck up. Or I will deliver a comeback that is not a joke and is an unintended, direct, theoretical kick to the egg sack. Story 78. If a joke requires, don't be so sensitive afterward. Maybe it wasn't a great joke. Story 79. Just call them out and say, no, you're not. You meant that as a dig. Tell them to be honest and own their shitty comments if they are going to make them. If they are not a complete dick, they will apologize. If they are, they will likely avoid you in the future. Either way, you win. Story 80. I would say explain the joke. Then follow up by asking, okay, so why is that funny? Story 81. I respond with sarcasm, laughing out loud. Oh wow, man, that's really funny. Anything else in your children's book? Story 82. You'll have to explain to me why that's funny. To me, it just sounded rude. Story 83. Yeah, well, your sense of humor sucks. Or, don't be a dick. Story 84. You being an asshole is not a comedy style. Although I imagine George Carlin saying, what are you talking about? Asshole is one of the fundamental comedy styles. Story 85. I have never heard that. I am not sensitive to snide remarks. Story 86. You do not have to say that. We all know you are just mean and nutless. Story 87. Cool. Then I'm just not laughing. Don't be so sensitive. Story 88. You say things like that all the time. They are not funny. They are abusive and amount to bullying. Just kidding. Story 89. Were you joking? Or were you on the square? You came across like a jerk. I do not give a fuck if that reply pisses them off. I am too old to give a shit if people get mad when I match their energy. Story 90. You are not smart enough for humor. Stay in your lane. Story 91. Do you think it is funny to be mean? You have a warped sense of humor. Story 92. Asshole. And if he says anything at all, even slightly defensive, he replies, just joking, bro. Why so serious? Story 93. Oh, sorry. I totally missed the funny part. Maybe work on your delivery? Ha. Usually I like funny people. Story 94. Sometimes it's okay. Other times it's go piss up a rope. Depending on how insulting they were. Story 95. I say something equally nasty back. When they act offended and make their hurt bunny face, I say, I'm joking. Don't be so sensitive. My monotone, dead-eye stare really enhances the moment. Some people are just turds who need to put others down to lift themselves up. I like to put them in their place and show them exactly how they make others feel. Not sorry. Story 96. Your stand-up comedy act sucks ass. Do not quit your day job. Story 97. I say, oh really? Because when I make jokes, they are actually funny. You might want to learn how to do that. Story 98. Target something they are sensitive about and do the same thing back. They will get really angry and say something like I was just joking, but you were taking it seriously. Story 99. A smack on the head was followed by someone saying, why are you mad? It was just a prank. Story 100. Say something mean about them, then tell them they can't be upset because you were just joking. Story 101. Well, it's a bad joke, and your response to criticism tells me why you don't get invited to things. Story 102. Funny how the people who say it is just a joke are always the first to get defensive when you joke back. Almost like they know exactly what they are doing. Story 103. I always ask for a polite explanation. I'm like, oh sorry, I guess I misinterpreted that. But why do you think I'm being sensitive? Story 104. Confrontation. No, you were not joking. You just did not expect anyone to care and call you out, so stop it. I have children. Story 105. I say, if you don't want me to be sensitive, try stating things a different way. Story 106. No. You are just being an asshole. Do not be so inconsiderate. Story 107. I stopped joking and thanked them for drawing my attention to the joke. Story 108. Are not jokes supposed to be funny? Go take an improv class. Story 109. If it is a specific comment about me, I usually say, well, I did not find it funny. It was just rude. Story 110. Do you have that response on deck because you find a lot of people are sensitive around you? Story 111. I do not respond. I scoff and laugh, then wait until it is my turn to be on the other end. Story 112. This kind of thing usually happens with guys, and my go-to line is, well, someone needs to show you how a real man does it. Story 113. Just don't respond with anything passive like, I don't get the joke. Explain it. That opens you up to, of course you don't get it. Try, that was about as funny as cancer, mate. Or the best part of you ran down your mother's legs. Or just ignore them. Either go all in or not at all. Never be in the middle. Story 114. Knowing you were joking makes it worse. I am still offended. Now I know you are a shit person. Goodbye. Story 115. Well, I didn't get it. I didn't think it was funny. Oh, my bad, they said sarcastically. Story 116. There are many ways to push back. You just have to pick the one that feels right in the moment. I am a volunteer in a group where the president is rather snarky to me despite the hundreds of hours of first-class service. I have pushed back less than usual because I want to remain in the group. She is leaving in January anyway. Story 117. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you explain what the funny part is? I guess I just don't think it's funny. Point blank. Some people just need it spelled out. Story 118. Yes, I'm just taking the piss when people know they went too far. Story 119. Ask them exactly why they think what they said is funny. Story 120. I did not take it as a joke. Maybe you should be less insensitive. Story 121. Well, when you try to be funny and edgy but fail, that means you are being obnoxious. Maybe work on that. Story 122. Just a quick, light throat punch usually gets the message across. Then you tell them to calm down and stop being so emotional. Story 123. There is no humor in what you said. You are just an asshole. Story 124. Say something absolutely personally devastating, then say, ha, just kidding. You're not offended, right? You're not a pussy, right? Story 125. I'm a sassy bitch when the need or want arises. So most people who make those kinds of comments to me just want to see what crazy strings of verbal expletives will come out of my mouth. Outside of those moments, I keep things pretty straightforward and sunny, so people who don't know me well are a bit taken aback. Story 126. I do not like that joke. Please do not make those jokes at my expense anymore. Story 127. I quite like the open mic. It is tomorrow night, but do not give up the day job. I prefer to reply in the same vein rather than take it to heart. Story 128. Well, I would not be so sensitive if that is how you really feel about me. Story 129. Say you are right, then hit them back with every vulnerability they gave. Story 130. I think we need a lot more context. To be honest, many people have become ridiculously oversensitive these days. Would most people have seen what was said as a joke? Was it the timing? I'm going to need more information because otherwise responses will be very vague. I agree that telling someone don't be so sensitive rarely gets a good response. However, is it possible you were taking a joke too seriously? Story 131. Jokes are supposed to be funny. Go on. Explain to me why I should be laughing. Story 132. Sorry, I can't assist with content that sexualizes minors. Safe rewrite. Your father was only joking. He didn't mean any harm. Oh well. Story 133. Apparently I am not sensitive enough to detect the microscopic amount of humor in your remark. Story 134. Depending on the occasion. You know, I always tell my toddlers it's only a joke if everyone is laughing. Can you repeat that, please? I didn't catch the part that was a joke. I find it so awkward when people say that. Am I being sensitive? Or am I just an unwilling witness to your insecurities? Story 135. I'd say something that would get me banned for posting on here. Story 136. Oh, I must have missed the joke. Can you explain why it's funny to you? Story 137. Give a small blank smile and say or right, yeah. Then excuse myself. I will not put energy into justifying or explaining. You may show polite disinterest as a courtesy, but that is it. For people whose opinions I care about, I might try to talk to them about it. For anyone else, no. Story 138. I was just joking. Did I hurt your feelings, morals, or sensibilities? Story 139. That is a joke? You need to get better material. I try to make my tone very dry and roll my eyes. Story 140. You are never going to make it as a comedian. You will fail at that, as you have with the rest of your life. Story 141. Most of these responses show that the respondent is no more mature or polite than the offender. How about we simply do not hang out with people whom we do not actually enjoy being around? Story 142. I would not joke about you like that. I do not find that kind of thing funny. Story 143. Speak slowly, loudly, and enunciate so everyone can hear. Well, it wasn't very funny. Pause 2 seconds. Was it? Pause 4 seconds. It's only a joke if everyone laughs. Not everyone is laughing at what you said because it was bullying. Pause 4 seconds. Fucking knock it off. Story 144. I thought jokes were funny. Can you explain the joke to me? I do not get it. I am not sensitive. You are just an asshole. These are all things I have said. I have also returned an equally snide remark, using the same tone they use about something they are sensitive about. Hey, look, I can make jokes too. Isn't this fun? Deliver the response straight-faced with minimal emotion. You are not upset. You are just really turned off by how lame this loser is. Story 145. I had a coworker who would invent outrageous stories about the terrible jobs he assigned to me. He would wait until I was suitably outraged and then say, I was just joking. I still dislike him, even though I have been retired for 5 years. His son is a lovely, kind person who does not share his father's flaws. Story 146. Slowly look them up and down, put on a knowing expression, and quietly say oh with a slight pitying smile. It gives off bless your heart vibes without much effort and makes the person feel judged. Story 147. Do not presume to tell me what I think or how I feel. You are way offside. Story 148. Make one back. There's no comment that can't be upstaged. Story 149. I do not know how many times right-wingers I know, mostly co-workers, jumped all in on the do not be such a snowflake refrain, so I one-upped them whenever they said unfunny nonsense. They would say something completely unoriginal and not funny, like Democrats do not know which bathroom to use, haha. They could not take it, so they unfriended me. Story 150. I say you might be joking, but honestly, you sound like a bit of a cunt in my cheeriest English private school accent. It usually works quite well. Story 151. I wasn't. You're the one who's upset about not being funny. Story 152. My face makes it clear that I think the speaker is an idiot. No words are necessary. Story 153. I say, I'm not sensitive, you're insensitive. Works every time. Story 154. Oh, was that a joke? Please explain. I must have missed the humor. Story 155. Okay, relax. It's all good. I mean, the only thing people love more than snide remarks is being told to chill, right? Story 156. I must have missed the punchline. Honestly, I'm too old to hear that much these days. Story 157. After 10 years of marriage to a real piece of shit, my reaction was, did you seriously try to make me the butt of your joke? I am not sensitive. You are an inconsiderate asshole. Story 158. Wrong. You should be more sensitive and read the room properly next time. Story 159. The jerk store called, and they are running out of you. Story 160. What I tell my grade schooler. Laughing at others does not mean you are being funny. It means you are being a bully. Story 161. My New York Italian comes to the surface, and I have many mentors whose footsteps I follow. Story 162. Explain the joke. Keep asking them to explain it and why it is funny. They will realize they have to explain something rude. Story 163. Jokes are supposed to be funny. What's the joke? Make the fuckers explain it. They tend to get really self-conscious. Story 164. Internally, I know they do not like me and are trying to get on my nerves. I would never say this to someone I did not hate. Story 165. Well, I don't appreciate it. A friend would respect that and avoid making similar jokes around me. If they apologize, they are truly your friend. If they double down, they are not, and you should feel free to point that out. I guess you are not the friend I thought you were. Story 166. Yeah, well, you're a fucking asshole. Just kidding. Story 167. My sister was the queen of, I'm just joking. I wish I had seen these comebacks back then. Story 168. Since you know I am sensitive, why are you so fucking cruel? Your jokes clearly are not funny. Maybe you should be less of a dick. If people know we are sensitive, then why are they being utterly shit? Story 169. You are being ridiculous. Just joking. Story 170. I say, don't quit your day job because you will never make it as a comedian. You are not even remotely funny. Story 171. Usually I pick my battles, but the responses are either, yeah, well, jokes are supposed to be funny, you suck. I don't get it. Can you explain it to me? And my favorite, although I've only ever used it once, okay, why don't you tell the same thing to that person right there and see if they think it's funny? Go on. I dare you. Context for the last one. A classmate told me a joke about black people and even said the N-word. We are Asian. I told him not to say the N-word and he replied, chill. I'm just joking. Why are you so offended? You're not even black. I said that since it's a joke, why not say the same thing to the one black student in our batch, who was in the same room with us at the time? When he said no, I replied, why not? Since you think your joke was so funny, I think that classmate would find it funny too. Don't you think? Go on. Try it. The shithead promptly gave up. Story 172. Oh, okay. Thank you for reminding me. Straight to their face. Story 173. It depends. In person, I let it go because I really do not want to get stuck in a conversation with a Schrödinger-type douchebag. Online, I will absolutely call out that behavior for what it is. Story 174. It's my experience that there is a fine line between a joke and the truth about how someone feels. If this is someone you see regularly, they offend you, and they seem not to care, consider seeing them less. Story 175. I usually fall silent with a blank look. I am autistic and have trouble making obvious facial expressions, so I use this to my advantage. If it is online, I have a more sarcastic response. Story 176. Depending on the person and their attitude, I will either stare them down or say, the only joke I see here is you, and walk away. Story 177. I have been in a high enough no bullshit position long enough that this is no longer an issue. But if this happened today, I would laugh, give a knee slap, then stop and look at them without reacting. That routinely causes everyone else to laugh at them. Knee slapper jokes are genuinely funny, so lean into them. Story 178. Oh, I get it. You must have picked that up from your mother. She makes unfunny, ignorant jokes as well. Case in point. Story 179. I usually say, well, I didn't laugh, or who laughed, depending on the crowd size. Story 180. I ask them to explain the joke or I implement hard boundaries. They are not safe people for me to be around. Story 181. Apologize for not getting the joke and ask him to explain it. Keep asking until he wilts. Story 182. Look at them like they shat in their hand and showed it to me, then say, cringe, or yikes. That usually pisses the person off, and they follow up with, it was just a joke. Stop overreacting. With a dramatic eye roll. Story 183. Raise your eyebrows for 3 seconds. Squint for 3 seconds. Then say HM and walk away. Story 184. Remind them that a joke is only funny when everyone involved is laughing. Story 185. It is hard to tell whether you are joking when you are a walking punchline, brother. Story 186. A swift kick to the bollocks. I am just kidding. Do not be so sensitive. Story 187. I give a comeback. No matter how deep they go, they never reach the end. Story 188. If it was, that's not a big deal. If it is, that's not my fault. I did not mean it. If I did, you deserved it. Story 189. Jokes are only funny when everyone is laughing. Otherwise, it is just bullying. I do not get it. Explain to me why it is funny. Story 190. If they are religious. I quote an ancient Jewish proverb. Like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, I am only joking. Proverbs 26 verses 18 to 19. Otherwise, it is a stern look and the message. For a joke to be funny, everyone has to be in on it. Otherwise, it is bullying. That is a fact and is not up for discussion. I am a teacher and a grown woman. No one my age pulls this on me anymore. If someone did, they would be weeded out of my friend group. I find people reveal themselves by calling the one who does not laugh a wet blanket. If that means I can wash my hands of them, then a wet blanket I will be. Story 191. It's been a while since I've encountered this, but I'd probably say, wow, that is a profoundly stupid thing to say. Story 192. Is the person physically present? Would their comment be in line with a hate group such as the Nazis? If yes to both, then I always fall back on the teachings of our Lord and Savior, Captain America. Story 193. I am not sensitive. It is just that your joke is not funny. Story 194. Oh, you were joking. It never occurred to me that you had a sense of humor. This can put someone on uneven footing, especially if they pride themselves on being funny. Don't be mean when you say it. Act genuinely surprised. Story 195. I have always replied that jokes are funny. This remark was not. Come back when you have worked on your sense of humor. Story 196. I am just trying to save you from embarrassing yourself. Story 197. I get that you're trying to be funny, but there's a difference between harmless banter and throwing shade. Story 198. Finish your thought. It embarrasses the hell out of them. Story 199. I just say to my husband, no, you are not. You are being passive-aggressive. Story 200. I immediately turn it into a joke about someone's mother. It is most effective when the mother is deceased. Story 201. The only thing that works against the I'm an asshole, but at least I'm honest type of jokester is saying, okay, it's a joke. Tell me what's funny about it. Say it blandly, and it will usually make things so awkward that they stop talking to you. Story 202. Distance. People like this aren't your friends, and they mean it. They just aren't bold enough to stand by it. Story 203. Oof. That's what that was? I'm used to jokes being funny. It's clear you are just trying to be offensive. So let's pop a cork in it before you embarrass yourself. Then walk away immediately and avoid further engagement. Story 204. When people say something rude, I like to ask them, what do you mean? And earnestly await their fumbling explanation, calmly saying, what a weird thing to say, or what a rude thing to say, also does wonders. Story 205. What's so funny about that? Story 206. Make a joke back at them. They have set the bar for sensitivity, so let us see if they understand the setting. Story 207. Okay, now let's talk about you. I have some thoughts. You won't be offended, right? I'm trying to help and be honest. Story 208. Also known as, don't make you uncomfortable because you hurt my feelings, right? Got it. Story 209. I wish I were quicker with my responses, but I usually say, don't tell me not to be sensitive, you cunt. Story 210. If you make one of these jokes and its target is not laughing, it was not a joke. It was a piss take. Adjust accordingly. Story 211. I have given up on actively being offended. I often think, and sometimes say, ha, you do not even know half of what is flawed about me. At some point, it becomes a game for the other person and then they get bored. Story 212. I hate this cop-out people try to use to be cruel. They say and do whatever they want. Ha, I was just joking, so you shouldn't be offended. Fuck that. If it deserves calling out, I'll call it out all day. It's even better if I know the person, what makes them tick, and their past experiences when they freaked out in similar cases. This is my biggest irritation lately. It drives me crazy because it happens all the damn time. I can't stomach it anymore. Don't even try. Story 213. I am a man in my 40s. On a flight, I sat near the emergency exit by the flight attendant's seat, with plenty of legroom. After we boarded and the attendant left, the man next to me, in his late 50s, said the only way it would be better was if she were on all fours so he could put his legs on her. I told him, "That is not a cool thing to say." He mumbled, "So you are one of those?" Then stopped and behaved for the rest of the flight. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.